In the Stoic sense, living with virtue is to align with one's nature. That nature is not dictated by fashion, fame, or the fleeting judgments of others. It is discovered in stillness, courage, and consistency. The Stoic asks not, "What do they want from me?" but rather, "What do I already know to be true?" This truth, once found, becomes the compass. Modern society often rewards conformity and performance, but the Stoic remain steadfast in their commitment to authenticity. They are not swayed by the allure of external approval. Their focus is on the integrity of their actions, the clarity of their purpose, and the unwavering loyalty to their inner voice. They understand that sacrificing their true selves for acceptance is a hollow victory, devoid of inner peace. Staying true is not always easy. It is a daily discipline, a refusal to bend in ways that fracture the soul. The Stoic draws strength not from being understood but from being aligned, from trusting instinct, honoring values, and living as one whole person, not as fragments assembled for consumption. Authenticity is not indulgence. It is endurance. It is how one becomes free, not in form, but in essence. The peace that comes from living authentically is a calm center in the storm of life. The Stoic views family not as a separate domain from virtue, but as its proving ground. It is within the rhythms of everyday closeness, meals shared, silence endured, time given, that one's philosophy is revealed. Talk means little without presence. Ambition means nothing if it leaves the heart absent. To serve one's family is not to shrink but to expand the self through responsibility. A life lived well does not ignore legacy. It builds it moment by moment in how we show up for those we love, not with perfection but with presence. The Stoic chooses to remain near when distance is easier, to offer care when applause lies elsewhere, and to value time over title. Sacrifice is not loss. It is clarity in motion. True legacy is not a name inscribed. It is a soul instilled. It lives on in the strength of those we raise, the character we nurture, and the stability we offer. The Stoic does not count hours worked but moments offered. Not because time is infinite but because its finite nature gives each decision weight. To live well is to align love with action. And in doing so, to leave behind something no award can match, a life felt by others long after it is gone. And now let's draw 12 principles for the Stoic. Principle 1. Live true to yourself. The Stoic begins with the self, not as an indulgence, but as a foundation. To live well is to live in harmony with nature, not in constant performance for the world. The person who bends too easily to expectation, who wears masks to gain favor, finds themselves fragmented, known by many, yet unknown to themselves. The Stoic avoids this fracture. They seek wholeness, not approval. To live true is to listen inwardly, align action with conviction, and speak what is felt even when silence is safer. It means standing by one's values when applause is absent. This authenticity is not defiance, it is fidelity. It is the quiet choice to remain oneself in rooms that tempt transformation for the sake of belonging. Living true is not about being bold, it is about being clear. It is the refusal to outsource identity. The Stoic wears no mask. They are the same in solitude and in company. In this way, their presence becomes a kind of anchor, for themselves and others. What is more stabilizing than someone who knows who they are and lives by it? Principle 2. Embrace the chaos of life. The Stoic does not expect life to be a calm sea, but rather prepares for the inevitable storms. They recognize that life is inherently messy, loud, and unpredictable. Instead of resisting this reality, they embrace it, finding peace even in the absence of calm. Chaos is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. And so the Stoic meets each disruption not with complaint but with composure. They ask, "What now? What can I do within this moment, this mess, this detour?" Staying rooted when the world sways, the Stoic becomes a steady presence in the storm. This embrace is not surrender. It is acceptance with action. The Stoic moves not because the path is clear, but because the next step is. They do not require certainty. They cultivate adaptability. This resilience, this willingness to act in uncertainty, is what separates the fragile from the strong and capable. In a world obsessed with control, the Stoic offers something deeper: readiness. And in that readiness, a strange peace, because they no longer ask for life to be perfect. They simply ask to be equal to whatever comes. Principle 3. Focus on what you can control. The Stoic is adept at drawing a clear line through their experiences, distinguishing what is within their control and what is not. This is not an act of avoidance, but a demonstration of their clarity. They understand that attempting to control the thoughts of others, the whims of fortune, or the shape of the future is a futile endeavor. Instead, they focus their efforts on what they can control: their own mind, their own actions, and their own principles. Focusing on what is controllable is to reclaim energy from illusion. It is to stop chasing peace in the world's behavior and start building it in one's own. The Stoic does not waste effort trying to bend the world; they bend themselves toward truth. This practice does not simplify life, but it sharpens it. It narrows the field of concern, trims away anxiety's root, and leaves behind a core of agency. The Stoic does not pretend indifference. They feel, but they do not hand the reins of their emotions to external circumstance. To hold fast to what is theirs, to their reason, will, and response, is to live from the inside out. And in that orientation, they find power and clarity that no storm can take. Principle 4. Value relationships over achievements. The Stoic does not measure a life in awards, but in presence. Success fades. Titles gather dust. But the memory of how one made others feel, that endures. The Stoic knows this, and so they prioritize relationships, not as sentimental distractions, but as central expressions of virtue. Giving time, attention, and care are not gestures. They are philosophies made real. The Stoic sees family, friendship, and community not as duties but as mirrors. Through them, the true self is reflected, refined, and revealed. In loving others well, the Stoic lives out justice, patience, and humility. This valuation of relationships does not diminish ambition. It clarifies it. The Stoic still builds and strives, but not at the cost of those closest. They are not so obsessed with legacy that they forget the people who carry it. They turn down opportunities when they must. They say no when presence matters more than progress. In the end, the Stoic leaves not just a resume but a resonance, a warmth remembered, wisdom shared, and presence felt in the lives of others long after their own has passed. That is the true measure of achievement. Principle 5. Make your actions speak louder than words. The Stoic does not need to announce their integrity. They live it. Words are easy. Postures are plentiful. But action, that is where the soul is tested. The Stoic acts not to impress, but to align. Not to display virtue, but to embody it. Promises are nothing without follow-through. Beliefs are hollow without application. The Stoic speaks less and does more. They understand that character is not broadcast, it is observed. In how they treat those with no power. What do they do when no one watches? In the quiet consistency of showing up fully. This principle is not about perfection. It is about congruence, about narrowing the gap between what is said and what is done. The Stoics hold themselves to this alignment, not because the world demands it, but because peace demands it. A person whose actions echo their words moves through the world with a rare weight. They don't just say what they value, they prove it. In doing so, they invite others to do the same, not with speeches but with examples. Principle 6. Embrace discomfort for growth. Comfort rarely teaches. But discomfort, it sharpens, it reveals, it stretches. The Stoic does not seek pain, but they do not flinch from it either. They understand that growth comes dressed in difficulty, that the path to clarity, strength, and depth wins through discomfort. Discomfort may be physical, an early wake-up, a demanding task, a difficult conversation, or emotional, facing failure, naming fear, speaking honestly. Whatever its form, the Stoic meets it with purpose. They ask, what is this discomfort asking of me? What strength does it want to build? Avoidance is the easier road, but it leads nowhere. The Stoic chooses the path of engagement not because they enjoy it but because they understand it is necessary. They grow not by escaping what is hard but by enduring it with presence and poise. Each time discomfort is met with clarity, a layer of resilience is added. Not armor, but integrity. The Stoic does not become numb. They become strong. And through discomfort, they do not suffer more, they suffer better. With meaning. With growth. With grace. Principle 7. Cultivate humility. The Stoic does not walk into a room seeking to be the loudest, the smartest, or the most praised. They enter with quiet eyes and a steady heart. Humility is not self-deprecation, it is self-awareness. It is the calm acknowledgement of one's place in the world, neither above nor beneath, but among. It is the discipline to learn, the willingness to be wrong, and the courage to let others shine. True humility does not announce itself. It shows up in how one listens, in how one treats those who offer nothing, and in how one responds to praise, not with hunger but with gratitude. The Stoic knows that arrogance is brittle and that the person who needs to be seen constantly is rarely seen clearly. Humility is spacious. It leaves room for growth, for others, and for silence. It invites wisdom by removing pretense. It exchanges dominance for curiosity. The Stoics practice humility not because it is virtuous in theory but because it allows them to see life, and themselves, more honestly. The Stoic does not disappear in humility. They become solid, present, and rooted not in image but in essence. Principle 8. Be present in the moment. Time does not slow for reflection. It passes quietly, continually, without apology. The Stoics understand this, and so they practice presence, not as a luxury but as a responsibility. Each moment, once lived, will not return. To miss it is to miss life itself. Presence is not passive. It is a choice. A sharpening of attention. A refusal to drift into distraction. The Stoic chooses to arrive fully, whether with a child, a partner, a stranger, or in solitude. To look without checking. To listen without preparing a reply. To engage without escape. This practice is rare in a world that divides attention as if it were infinite. The Stoic guards it fiercely, not all the time, but enough to feel life clearly, to catch its flavor, and to register its warmth. Presence transforms the ordinary. It turns meals into rituals, conversations into communion, and quiet into sanctuary. The Stoic knows they cannot extend their lives indefinitely, but they can deepen them immediately. And they do so, not by adding more, but by being where they already are. Principle 9. Find purpose in your work. The Stoic does not ask whether their work is glamorous. They ask whether it is meaningful, whether it serves, and whether it aligns with their values. In the Stoic view, work is not merely a means to income. It is a field of character, a place to practice discipline, precision, service, patience, and creativity. The Stoics approach their craft with care. Whether building a company, raising a family, designing, writing, teaching, or repairing, they engage not for attention, but for integrity. They ask, how can I do this well? How can I bring virtue into this task? What does this moment ask of me? Purpose does not always look grand. Often, it is quiet. It is in the way an email is written, a room is prepared, a dish is washed. The Stoic finds meaning not in the magnitude of the work, but in its alignment. To work with purpose is not to escape fatigue or frustration. It is to carry them with perspective, to know that effort, when directed by purpose, is not wasted. It is a form of prayer, a form of presence, a form of becoming. Principle 10. Accept imperfection. Perfection is the grand illusion that haunts the modern mind. It whispers, you are not ready, this is not enough, you must do more, be more, prove more. The Stoic hears these voices, and silences them. They accept that everything is in motion, incomplete, and imperfect, including themselves. This acceptance is not resignation. It is freedom. To accept imperfection is to release the burden of appearing flawless. It is to begin where you are. To offer what is real rather than what is polished. The Stoic knows that pursuing perfection often delays the work that matters most, the honest, messy, human work of showing up. In accepting imperfection, the Stoic becomes more effective. They iterate, learn, and risk. They build a life not of pristine images but of meaningful moments. The crooked line, the awkward silence, the half-finished thought, all part of the texture of a life well lived. Perfection is sterile. Life is not. The Stoic chooses life. Principle 11. Create space for reflection. The Stoic knows that without reflection, life becomes noise, an endless stream of action without understanding. But in stillness, patterns emerge. In silence, truth speaks. Reflection is not an afterthought. It is a return, a recalibration, a place where clarity is recovered and decisions are made not in haste but in wisdom. Each day contains the material for insight, a word said too quickly, a moment of presence missed, a decision made with clarity. The Stoic sits with these, not to judge but to learn. They turn experience into growth through observation, not obsession. Reflection is not a luxury of the idle. It is the discipline of the intentional. It may be done through journaling, walking, prayer, conversation, or silence. The method is secondary. What matters is the pause. The Stoic does not reflect to escape life, but to re-enter it more fully, with cleaner hands, with quieter noise, with deeper conviction. They do not wait for reflection to come. They create space for it, and in that space, they hear the echo of who they are becoming. Principle 12. Live with gratitude. Gratitude, to the Stoic, is the most grounding of all practices. It roots them in what is, rather than what is missing. It shifts the gaze from lack to abundance, not as denial, but as discernment. Gratitude is not for the ideal day. It is for the ordinary moment, the warm light, the shared laugh, the breath held and released. The Stoic does not wait for big wins to be thankful. They thank the quiet strength to endure, the small joys that soften difficulty, and the ability to try again. They know that entitlement dulls the soul, while gratitude sharpens presence. Gratitude is not passive. It is active acknowledgement. It is choosing to honor what has been given, relationships, time, health, opportunity, by using it well. It is seeing discomfort not just as a struggle but as a teacher. It recognizes that even in loss, something is to be honored. To live with gratitude is not to ignore what is hard. It is to place it beside what is beautiful, and hold them both with reverence. In that balance, the Stoic walks forward, not demanding more, but carrying what they have with grace.